is really lackluster, especially because of the incredible amount of talent that AJ has. As I said here previously, over the past number of months in this radio show, AJ is one of the quickest, one of the most agile divas you have on the entire roster, and AJ facing Kaitlyn is a better match than Kaitlyn facing Tamina or Kaitlyn facing Oksana for the Divas Championship. The biggest problem that I have with Kaitlyn is since winning the Divas Championship from Eve in her hometown of Houston, Texas a couple of months ago on Raw, she really hasn't had any competition stand before her since winning the Divas Championship. She really hasn't been tested as the Divas Champion, so I think this is going to be the first time ever since winning the championship that Kaitlyn's actually going to be challenged for the Divas title, because she's actually facing a talent that is actually credible and who utilizes moves like the Octopus better than any other diva I have ever seen over the last half of a decade. Nobody utilizes that Octopus move any better when it comes to a diva than AJ. There are a lot of moves that AJ has perfected, and it's beyond me why she still doesn't utilize those maneuvers. Maybe it's because WWE are trying to perceive her as a mentally challenged character like they've been trying to get over ever since her involvement with Kane, Daniel Bryan, and CM Punk. Maybe they're trying to really emphasize the fact that AJ is something wrong upstairs, but the thing is, AJ's not that at all, and that's really what frustrates me about AJ's character, the fact that she's better than what she's perceived to be in WWE. Maybe the way she's wrestling has a lot to do with how WWE are getting over her character as someone who is suffering from a lot of mental challenges. But the thing is, if you go back to 2010, 2011, one thing that you will notice is AJ was performing considerably better back then than she is now, and that's one of the things that really frustrates me about AJ's character. Another thing too that really could get Kaitlyn over in this match and allow Kaitlyn to retain the Divas Championship probably within the first two matches before AJ wins the Divas Championship, kind of in a series between these two divas, is the fact that AJ really wouldn't wrestle as good as Divas Champion, because again, WWE are trying to emphasize that she has something wrong upstairs, resulting in her not utilizing maneuvers like she used to back in 2010, 2011. Seeing AJ defend the Divas Championship being perceived as a mentally challenged character wouldn't be that entertaining, and probably wouldn't represent the Divas division as effectively as Kaitlyn being the Divas Champion. Kaitlyn waited patiently too for her opportunity at the Divas Championship, and waited patiently for a push in the WWE, pushing her as a heel on SmackDown and in her first feud with AJ that was based on their history from NXT, but with not enough emphasis on the history between the two divas, was a little bit of a bad move on WWE's part. It really was a mistake. They put Kaitlyn on hiatus. We don't see Kaitlyn very much on WWE television. She does some work on the all-new NXT, and then she comes over from there to Raw and SmackDown, and eventually solidifies herself as the number one contender for the Divas Championship. She's been doing an exceptionally well job for someone who waited patiently for the opportunity at the Divas Championship, and I think taking the title off Kaitlyn would be a little bit of disrespect for all the dedication Kaitlyn has showed since winning NXT Season 3. She's really worked hard, and she's really been patient with WWE Creative, as they've had a lot of confusion with her character, and I think they had that same little bit of confusion with AJ's character, because over the last number of months, especially in the summer of 2012, we saw AJ have so many different roles in the WWE. She was a valet, she was a Raw general manager, she was an off and on again wrestler in the WWE Divas division, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that AJ thought the Divas division needed her more than she needed the Divas division. And I'm not saying that was an inaccurate assumption on AJ's part or WWE Creative, because it could have been very well be true, but the thing is, AJ needed to help the Divas division get out of a precarious position, because in 2012, early 2013, we were seeing a lot of releases. In the summer of 2012, we lose Kelly, and a couple of weeks after that, we lose Eve Torres. Over the past couple of months, we have lost Melina, Maurice, Karma, the Bella Twins, who were recently rehired, which was one of the biggest probable things the WWE Divas division had ever done over the past couple of months. A lot of divas who were Divas Champion at one point were released, and I believe the Divas division was really backed into a precarious position. So AJ could have helped the Divas division get out of that precarious position by wrestling more than what she was. WWE didn't need to have her in different roles, such as Raw General Manager roles, managerial roles, roles that really didn't suit her character. With the ability AJ has, she should have been a full-time in-ring competitor, and I hope that her being the number one contender for the Divas Championship is the first sign of her getting back into the ring and on a regular basis and wrestling the way she was back in 2010, 2011. I know there are a lot of AJ superfans out there that probably feel the same way I do when you're talking about frustrations of AJ's character, and I'm sure not the fact that she's not wrestling as much as she used to is the only thing that's frustrating wrestling fans. There are probably a lot of frustrations you have when it comes to the character of AJ. She won multiple championships prior to coming to WWE on the independents. She was known for her in-ring ability, and WWE seemed to be destroying the credibility that AJ built up for years. She wrestled under many names on the independents. There are many photos on websites like Google image of her holding independent championships, and she's known for wrestling. So why isn't someone who's known for wrestling, as opposed to an out-of-the-ring role like a Miss Elizabeth or a Deborah type character, not wrestling? Why is she on the outside of the ring in the corner of people like Dolph Ziggler and Big E Langston? If anything, Dolph Ziggler's manager right now is the World Heavyweight Championship. That is what's getting Dolph Ziggler over more than having AJ as a girlfriend is getting him over. AJ being the Divas champion will help Dolph Ziggler's character, because Dolph Ziggler will be the world champion, AJ will be the Divas champion, and they'll be being referred to as the Friday Night SmackDown power couple. That will help Dolph Ziggler a lot, but the one thing that's getting Dolph Ziggler over now is the fact that he's World Heavyweight Champion. That is his manager, that is the prop that's getting Dolph Ziggler over. Over the past at least 6 to 7 months, I've been saying that Dolph Ziggler being either the WWE or World Heavyweight Champion was money, and WWE will be receiving a lot of attention for as long as they have Dolph Ziggler as the World Champion. Dolph Ziggler has the skill, and he has the character perception to be one of the greatest world champions of all time. That is a championship that's been held by the likes of Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Sting, many of the top names of the professional wrestling business. Dolph Ziggler has etched his name in the annals of immortality, and I think right now the World Championship is what's doing Dolph Ziggler an incredible amount of justice. Big E Langston playing the role of a Kevin Nash type character, similar to how he did for Shawn Michaels back in the 1990s, is great for him. You can keep Big E Langston in there. He's the current NXT champion. That's doing Dolph Ziggler an incredible amount of justice, having him be the bodyguard, but I'm not so struck on AJ being his girlfriend. Many people probably believe that AJ is doing a lot of beneficial things for Dolph Ziggler, but when you really take time to put it into perspective, what is she really doing as opposed to just standing on the outside of the ring? She's really doing nothing. Occasionally she gets involved at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view prior to WrestleMania. She actually ended up inside of the chamber. That was the most active role AJ had as an out-of-the-ring competitor in WWE. Again, I think AJ needs to be wrestling more, and she's going to have to be wrestling more if she's a Divas champion. That's where I'm a little bit confused. If AJ hasn't been wrestling over the last 6 months, and when she wrestles, she actually just lies there kind of in a emotional state, how is she going to be able to defend the Divas championship while WWE are perceiving her the way that she has been? If she was wrestling over the last 4 to 5 months in about 5 to 10 minute matches each week on Raw and SmackDown, this would be more believable of AJ becoming the Divas champion. But the thing is, when she wrestles, she doesn't put up any offense. She doesn't actually attempt to win. When she goes to win a match, she wins after someone interferes, or she wins within the final few seconds of the match. It's not like she's wrestling in consistent 15-minute long matches. That's the biggest concern I have, and I'm wondering how the Divas division will be perceived and how it will be represented with AJ as the Divas champion. Obviously, this is the direction they're leaning in, and the prediction that I have for the AJ-Caitlyn match is that AJ will go on to win her inaugural Divas championship, because the timing has never been better, especially with Dolph Ziggler, her boyfriend right now, being the World Heavyweight Champion, and they having a great deal of emphasis on both of their characters. But how will this represent the WWE? How will the WWE Divas division be perceived by someone who is supposedly mentally challenged as the Divas champion? And is this really the way you want to have your Divas division represented, with how phenomenal Ring of Honor and TNA's Knockouts division is right now? The TNA Knockouts division is far more inferior than the WWE Divas division. It's not like the WWE Divas division have a Divas tag team title to compete for. It's not like the WWE Divas division is completely separate from the actual divisions in the WWE, like TNA Knockouts division is completely separate from all the divisions happening right now in TNA, from the heavyweights division to the X division. There are, an entirely different way that both of these divisions are being perceived. TNA Knockouts division is on an entirely different level. So with that being said, is this really how you want to have your Divas division represented? Is it better to have Caitlyn continue to be your Divas champion even though there isn't much competition? The way I look at Caitlyn having competition created for herself is you bring over talents from NXT, because that is really where good women's wrestling is happening right now. AJ versus Paige or AJ versus Summer Rae are matches where money is right now, because the women in the NXT division in WWE are far more superior than the women we're seeing on Raw and SmackDown. I mean, the Funkadactyls can gain a lot of in-ring experience. Hopefully working with the Bella Twins over the next couple of months will give them the in-ring experience they need to become better wrestlers, because that's one thing I hope for the Funkadactyls, Naomi and Cameron, is that we're going to be seeing them wrestle more, especially with the WWE season just recently kicking off with a tremendous WrestleMania 29. I think one of the biggest things the Divas division needs to see are Divas from NXT getting call-ups to WWE, especially Paige, who I really believe has a prominent future. Aja Marie and Summer Rae are some of the top Divas also on that show. But you take into consideration how statistically well Paige has been performing on NXT, and you can't argue the fact that Paige, if any diva of the all-new NXT, is someone who needs a WWE call-up, and Paige facing AJ for the Divas Championship could create a lot of attention and could generate ratings for the WWE. Not just Paige, but a lot of divas on the all-new NXT every Wednesday on WWE.com could do a lot of justice for the Divas division, especially when you're talking about an opponent for someone like AJ. To me, having the anti-diva going up against someone who is mentally challenged like AJ's character's been over the past 6 or 7 months would be a great representation of the Divas division, and I think it would be a great representation of interproportionality if you have AJ facing Paige, because you have an American diva going up against a British diva, which is the first real international feel that we've had for the Divas division in a while. We haven't seen that in quite some time, an international match between two divas in the WWE. Again, there was a lot of probability with the NXT divas, which you can see every Wednesday on WWE.com for an hour. That is where you're going to get good women's wrestling, as opposed to what the Divas division is currently offering on both Raw and SmackDown. My prediction for AJ facing Caitlyn is that AJ will win the Divas Championship. I'm just uncertain, and I have a lot of questions looming in the back of my mind as to how the Divas division will be perceived and how the Divas division will be being talked about, especially on social media. Is this the kind of way you want your Divas division represented, especially with how active social media has been when it comes to WWE over the past at least 4 to 5 months? WrestleMania 29, the most socially active pay-per-view in WWE history on Facebook and Twitter. Is this